Hey, it's Greg from Cutting Edge Stencils, and we are coming to you live from Ramsey, New Jersey, LOVE live. Today, we're going to try to wrap up this 5-week How to Stencil Tile Floor project. We brought it down onto the floor here, and I'm going to finish around this toilet because that's the most difficult part that I'm told from our customers. Let's get going on this project right here. So, we have a toilet, faux toilet. I've mounted it here on the floor. This is our shop floor, and we've been stenciling with our Santa Ana large tile. As you can see, last week we did the corner, turned out beautiful, showed you how to do that. Now I'm going to show you how to work around a toilet. We've got an old shop floor, very beat up. I did a little bit of prep work on it. I already went through all the prep in previous tutorials, so you might want to save this tutorial and save the previous one, so when you do your project, you've got all the information you need. Okay, so when you're masking, we already went over caulking and things like that. Look at this, just a nice little trick here. If your toilet is flush against the floor, you can just take your masking tape and pull it like this, let it sit right on the floor, and then you can kind of very easily adjust its height, put it in place. I'm masked. Okay. I've been using this same stencil for 4 or 5 weeks. And look at it, it's fine. I even cut it to get into the corner so I could fold. That's a great trick for getting into the corner. Just one cut. Doesn't destroy the stencil, you can still use the stencil. So look, these are our registration marks, these outside areas. Can you see this? This is another piece of the tile that's going to be next to us that we're going to line up with, and I'm going to show you that right now. So I'm going to take this stencil and I'm going to take this registration mark and I'm going to place it on the previously painted print right there. And I'm going to line it up. Now I got a little bit of spray adhesive on here, which is very helpful. And I'm just going to press this down right up against the toilet. Now look, I'm not trying to jam it all the way in. I'm not going to do that yet. I want to get the majority of this flat. Okay, I've got my folded paper towels, got my dense foam roller, the only way to stencil, got my Benmore black paint. I'm going to evenly load my dense foam roller. I do not want stripes of paint on it.
Hey Greg, we have a question.
Yeah.
What kind of paint are you using on this floor?
Well, what I did is I primed the floor with Sticks. It's my favorite primer. It ensures great adhesion. Then I base coated the floor in flat Benmore Ben Navajo white, because stenciling really works best when you stencil a flat paint on top of a flat paint. They dry quick. They adhere to each other very well. It's much better than having a glossy floor paint and trying to stencil on that. That's going to get messy. It's not going to dry as quick. And then later we put our top coats on it for our durability. Okay, so I've loaded my dense foam roller. I'm going to now 1 or 2 passes offload it, relatively dry dense foam roller, and here we go. Again, I've been telling you this, very light pressure to begin with. Starts to distribute the paint. You're not going for full coverage in one shot. Okay, you're just going to slowly build up the coverage. This is going to keep the paint from bleeding too much. Bleed is when the paint seeps underneath the surface of the stencil and gives you a less than perfect print. So you can see I'm building this up. Doesn't take long. It's a very satisfying process. Now is a great time to tackle these projects in your house. Get creative. Get your mind into something positive and do something that you've been putting off. Okay, so I'm building up my coverage and working across. This floor is really about 60, 70 years old, quite beat up. I filled a little bit of it, of the deep cracks of this cement floor, with a DAP cement, ready mix cement filler. And I Been talking about that in previous episodes. Okay, so look, I've got this pretty much stenciled. I'm up against the toilet. I grab this, and if I'm coming in, I come straight in with the roller, but then I want to come over here. So I move the stencil this way so I don't bind and pinch the stencil. I position the stencil in the optimum place for not having it bind, so it lays flat. So when I come over here, I lift it up this way. You see that? Straight in, as close as you can get. And the rest we're going to do with a stencil brush. But you can get very, very close with this. And that's what I'm doing right now. Rotating my stencil. Okay, I'm going to call that rolled. I'm going to place this here. I'm going to grab one of my professional stencil brushes. We sell these at Cutting Edge Stencils. Boiled and flag bristles. They're the best bristles that you can get. You're going to just barely dip your stencil brush into the paint. You see that? Just the tip. You don't want to put too much paint on. You're going to do a swirling motion. It's called paleting the brush. I taught you this last week. I'm going to offload it a little bit on my paper towels so there's not too much paint on it, and that is a nicely loaded stencil brush. So now I'm going to position my stencil, use my fingers a little bit, push it down, and use a vertical pouncing method. Straight up and down, it's called pouncing. It's a vertical pouncing method which is going to direct the paint into the crease. And that's exactly what we want here. We want to have the illusion that this tile goes underneath this toilet. So I'm just going to take a look, see if there's any little touch-ups to do. Since I have my brush, got a little bit of paint on it, and I'm just going to hit these couple little spots, and we will pull this and see what we've got. Look at that, right in to the edge of the toilet. It's not that big a deal. Okay, I've got one left here. I'm going to position my stencil. Look at that, it lines up perfectly. Can everybody see that? That's how you position it. I've already done back here because you wouldn't be able to catch it on the camera, but it's the same process. I'm going to reload my roller. Again, I don't want it stripy. I want to do it as evenly as possible. So there's no stripes of paint on there because that's just going to be the way that the paint comes off. I'm going to take my 2 paper towels folded, do 2 or 3 passes, very nice, dry, dense foam roller. Do not stencil with anything with a big hairy nap on it, any crazy rollers. You want a dense foam, super smooth roller, and that's the finish it's going to give you, is a super smooth finish. Okay, we're coming back down here. I'm going to, again, light to medium pressure. Do not push too hard. Do not try to get full coverage in the first pass. You want to take a minute, build it up, and it doesn't take very long. And there's so many reasons to do this as opposed to doing a full-blown demolition on your bathroom floor. I mean, just the expense alone. This can be done probably for under $100 in a weekend, which is amazing. You are not ripping out your tile, your toilet, your vanity, buying tile, hiring a contractor with a wet saw to come into your house for less than $100. I guarantee that. Plus, this is so satisfying to do, and you get to tell all your friends that you did it yourself. It's becoming a lost art. Okay, see that? I'm moving my stencil so I have a 90-degree straight in roll with my roller. And there you go. Now, what am I going to do? I'm going to take my stencil brush, very light dip into the paint, palette the brush, which evenly distributes the paint, offload the brush, use my fingers, push down the stencil. Can you guys see that? Straight in, pouncing motion, straight in. This gets into the crease. And check this out. So this stencil has been around for a couple of weeks, has been cut up to do edges and corners, and I'm still using it. And I haven't even, okay, it slipped, so I'm going to move it in a little bit. Don't worry about that. Very easy to realign. You could put a little more spray adhesive on there. I try to go light on my spray adhesive. So I'll do this. And, you know, all these little things, like if the stencil moves or if you overpaint an edge or something, these are things that you're going to do on your project, but don't be intimidated by these things. This is what is going to give you experience, and this is what's going to make it so much easier the second time you do this. Check this out. I'm going to unmask. Can you see down here? How's that? Pretty good. So, to finish this project, same thing with the grout lines. We showed you that last week. You stencil your grout lines in, and then clear coat. I have some right here. We're going to use a water-based clear coat here. I've got some right here on a dense foam roller. I'm not going to show you today, but just it's as easy as taking your clear coat, cutting in, which means going around the perimeter edges, then taking your roller and rolling on 2 to 3 coats. You should be good for many, many years. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next week, and please stay calm. We'll see you then. Bye.